Hey everyone, this is John Puritz. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. This show is dedicated to each of us being better in all areas of our lives, mentally, spiritually, physically, and relationally. We want to help you be a better you because when you man up already, the world around you is greatly impacted. Here on the podcast, we don't believe you're an accident. We believe each of us is created for purpose, and this show is dedicated to helping you discover and live out that purpose. Again, welcome to the show, and let's check out another great episode. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. Super excited to be with you, to have you here, and it's going to be another great episode. I hope you enjoyed episode 100 with my sister. The views on that have really gone through the roof, and I so appreciate everyone who continues to listen and view. And if you're new, right, if maybe last week or last episode was the first time that you got exposed to the podcast, welcome. Good to have you here. And we continue to bring great guests, talk about great topics, and we just love helping all of us discover our created purpose. So I'm excited about today's show. It's going to be a really great one. But, you know, I noticed, you know, it's funny because we're now in our 7th season, 100 episodes, which is freaking awesome. And podcasting, I was talking to my mom the other day, it's changed so much. You know, when I started podcasting, it was 2019, and here we are 2025. And obviously with media and tech, things change, and podcasting really has become the new or the mainstream way people gather information. And it's just incredible how this landscape has changed. And so, you know, the podcast started out as audio only. Maybe I would put a couple of videos on YouTube, but it's funny now because I'm watching this shift. Most people are going to YouTube to listen and watch the podcast. So make sure you're subscribed to the Man Up Already channel on YouTube. You know, if you're still listening to podcast audio, it's on Spotify. You know, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple. Those are the two main ones. But I'm finding a lot of people are migrating over to YouTube to be able to see the video and the interaction. So you can find that at the Man Up Already channel. Sorry, a brain fart. And I will put a link to that in the comments, in the description, in the notes, as well as my link tree, which gives you all the links to what we have going on for Man Up Already. So I'm excited to have our guest today because, you know, I had joined a new gym back last summer, and you know, when you go consistently, you start to see the same people, right? Go at the same time. And this dude clearly stood out between his physique, his work ethic, his personality. And we just clicked and started working out together. And you know, he's a lot younger than me, and it was a great to be pushed. I love working out with younger people. That's such an old thing to say, but I am going to be 55 in a couple of months. So I'm holding on to 54 as tight as I can. But I don't think like it, act like it. And I love working out with people who are in their 30s and their 40s, like, and you just push, right? And he is definitely somebody that has pushed me. I love being around this dude. If you look at the media shots now on my social media, he's the guy that took the pictures. He's such an exceptional dude. And as I got to know him, I could tell there was a story there. I mean, I follow his social media. I knew there was a story there, and I don't know the full story, which I'm excited to flush that out here on the podcast. But our guest is a father. He's a U.S. Army veteran and a former DJ and nightlife professional. He's an NASM certified personal trainer and accountability coach. He spent 15 years, he says, spinning. I'm guessing that's DJing across the country, sharing stages with artists like Florida, LMFAO, Marshmello, and Sean Paul. But behind the scenes, he did face a personal battle with alcohol, with drug abuse, depression, and anxiety. He's dedicated to guiding others in the hospitality and nightlife industry towards a more healthier and balanced lifestyle. So with that, let's bring up the awesome, my good friend, such a great guy. Please welcome J.R. Hutter. All right, JR, good to have you on the podcast, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I, in the intro, was talking about, you're in the gym and there's just this guy who's an absolute freaking beast. And you're like, what is that guy up to? And I remember, us connecting, and I love, I love working out with you. I love keeping pace with you. How old are you?
43. I just turned
43.
43.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, it's 12 years. I thought you were younger. So
Yeah.
I don't feel too bad,
I'm starting to finally get the aches and the pain. As soon as I hit like 40, that's when everything started to hurt. So I really had to, step it up and make sure that I'm not falling apart when I'm 60 years old,
Oh, and it's funny too, right? Because, and I know you're into coaching, but I mean, I'm going to be, and I said it in the intro as well, I'm going to be 55 in like 2 months. And
it's wild.
It's not what my mother's 50 was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how things really have changed.
Well, they say like 50 is the new 30, and I think maybe I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that we've put a lot of emphasis, especially with like social media and stuff, on fitness, and maybe it's motivating people to take better care of themselves. I know that my dad was in good shape. He always like did push-ups and sit-ups in the morning. I never saw him go to a gym, but my mom, she didn't take care of herself. She was drinking vodka, smoking cigarettes, and doing her thing. So I think just we're in a place, the last 20, 30 years where people are learning to take better care of themselves. So
yeah, there's a lot of social proof, right? Like you said, it's in your face more, right?
Yeah.
It's easy when you're isolated to just make excuses, but and I love one of the big things that we talk about in the Man Up Already world is the power of your posse, right? Like,
yeah,
how important it is to have the right people around you, right? And I know if I don't go to the gym, I'm getting a text. I'll eventually, if I just, not that I am, right? But if I got lazy and sat on my ass and didn't go, you get the, where are you? Where have you been?
Yep.
What's the deal? You know what I mean? And it's so important to have those people in your life.
Yep, absolutely. I recently read Atomic Habits.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and he touches on that, how it's like you're. I think it was the section that was talking about like the part of your environment, and then the people you keep around you. And I saw a meme that said like, if you're hanging out with a group of alcoholics, you're going to turn into an alcoholic. If you're hanging out with a group of people who are, obsessed with fitness and taking care of their health, that's where you're going to end up. So no, that's a huge part of it. Luckily now I'm dating someone who's got the same mindset, takes care of herself. So it's like, I can't let her outshine me. I can't let her do better than me. I gotta keep up with the Joneses. I also don't want to get fat, so I gotta keep it up.
Yeah, and it's so true, right? Like, when it becomes your lifestyle, and I certainly want to hear your story. I mean, when I read, because I don't know it, right? Like, when you had a personal battle with alcohol and drugs, and I know that you had changed yourself physically because you post that, but when you change your lifestyle, like, I think and this is in anything, right? We might be talking about fitness, but it's mindset, it's daily habits, it's who you surround yourself with. When those things become what you normally do, it's no longer hard. Like, you would not allow yourself to get fat. It just won't happen. Number one, your metabolism is geared in a new way, but so is your brain. You know what I mean? Like, you just would not let that happen.
And that's what I tell like my coaching clients. I'm like, listen, the first 4 weeks might be tough, but you get to a point where it becomes second nature. And when people start noticing, that's when it really takes hold. And people coming up to you like, wow, you look great. Wow, you've lost some weight. Wow, you've got some muscles. And then from there, it's like a snowball effect where it's like, okay, I got to get better. I got to keep going. This is working. But that first month where it's like a new habit and it's new. And then it's also, you don't see those immediate results that everyone likes. It does get a little tough, but you just got to stick through it. And, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, you're rocking and rolling, and it becomes second nature.
Well, and that's why coaches are so important, right? For anything you want to level up in, that is a habit change, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need somebody putting your ass to the fire.
Yeah. Accountability is key. I mean, it's funny because I didn't plan on going down this route. But when I got back into the gym, I hired a personal trainer, and that was the only reason I hired a personal trainer, was accountability. Because at that point I wasn't going to the gym enough, and I'm like, well, if I hire a personal trainer 3 days a week, he's going to be scheduling my workouts, and I'm going to have to answer to someone if I don't decide not to show up. There's someone to hold me accountable. But the reality is, I knew how to work out. I know how to lift weights.
Right.
So then I found someone who was a coach, and I actually did I did like 8 weeks with her, and it was just so much better to like have someone who's like on a daily basis looking over me and holding me accountable, not only for the gym, but my habits, my all the healthy, staying healthy, drinking your water, doing all those things. It's a way better investment than paying $180 a week for a guy to train you, because once you walk out the door, they're gone. They don't connect with you, and all they want to make sure is you get through that one workout, as opposed to someone who's going to want to help you grow your lifestyle. So I think coaching is a huge thing, and even mentorships, business, every aspect, coaching I think is a great thing.
So before we dive into your story, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. So for me, it was P90X that changed my life, right? Like I was 40, I just turned 40, and I saw Tony Horton, right? Like, who was funny, my age so when I was 40, he was in his 50s when he did it, but he was in his 40s when he originally did that thing. I just caught it, in 2010. But I remember looking at him and going, that's what I want to, you know what I mean? As close as I can get to that. If they say, just hit play, right, and go, that was what I had my mind to. So even in those rough moments, there was this visual in my head, right, that started to take shape. And that didn't take shape until the 60th day, right?
Yeah.
You lose the weight and all that, but the definition doesn't come until the last 30-day cycle, right?
Yeah.
So was there for you like this, were you moving towards a visual that you had in your head? Like did you have that?
I did. It wasn't like exactly like your story, but for me, there were a few people that I followed on social media that really clicked with me, and I could and I looked at them and I was like, there's one guy, Brian Pruitt, and I believe he used to be a Major League Baseball player. I know who that is. Okay, yeah. Yep. So like I'd see this guy, and he's fucking jacked, and he's got a good life, and he's got kids, and he's got, he's taking care of himself. That was one guy that I remember watching all his videos and kind of, paying attention to what he was doing. It was like, that's what I want to look like. That's the kind of life that I want to live. And he's a very positive guy and has a great mindset. And, you can learn a lot from him, because he's always talking about all aspects of life, not just, working out and stuff like that. So I would say he was someone that I paid attention to.
Yeah. So there was a visual in some sense.
Yeah. And it's when I coach people, that's kind of one of the exercises we do is I say, like, I want you to come up with a person, whether it be an actual person or an idea of the person that you want to be, and come up with that person. And then, like, we're writing this down. Then we'll write down what kind of habits do you think that person would have? What kind of things do you think that person would be doing on a daily basis?
Right.
So to say, hey, okay, well, that guy probably goes to the gym 6 days a week. He probably eats very healthy. And so it's like, if you want to become this person, these are the things that you're going to have to do, and you're going to remember that. So I want you to always remember that person that you want to be, and remember what steps you have to take to get there. So that's I think that's key, and that's major in a transformation.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's dive into your story, right? So I know very little. So where did you grow up? Like, kind of take me to, how you're here.
Okay. Well, I was originally from New York. I lived there for the first 8 years of my life. My parents, my dad and my stepdad both worked in the airline industry. I grew up, flying for free and getting all that fun stuff. So my stepdad, he got a job transfer to Palm Beach International to be the customer service manager of U.S. Air. So that's what got me here to Florida. I had a good childhood. Grew up playing baseball and soccer, and did all sorts of things. And I had I grew up in Wellington, Florida. I had a normal life as a kid. And then by the time, I struggled a little in high school. I started to notice I was having a hard time paying attention. I was having a hard time getting my work done. I got through high school and I kind of was like, what do I want to do? I don't know. I'm not feeling college right now. I don't think I'm ready for something like that. I barely got through high school. I don't know what I want to do. And, in walks in the Army recruiter, and he came in and I thought he was the coolest guy on earth. And I'm like, man, that guy's cool, and we talked a little bit, and he talked about, the cash bonus and the money for college. I think at that time it was, if you enlisted for 4 years, you got $50,000 for college through the Montgomery GI Bill, and $6,000 cash bonus when you completed your training. So I was like, let's do this, and I hate to say it, but I think initially it was just kind of like a thing that, I didn't even, it wasn't like, I want to serve my country. It was like, okay, I have nothing to do right now. And there's all this money involved that I can get. And along the way, get some discipline and learn some things and do some training and, some traveling. So, but, got in, he told me, we're at peace. You'll never go to war. You'll never, none of that stuff. It's just, this is fun.
What year?
This is back in 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to be fine. You're going to be here. It's like you go out to the woods with your friends and you're playing paintball. It's kind of like that, and it's just like, okay. Well, I enlisted. I had Fort Bragg, North Carolina in my orders, and that's what I signed up because doing 4 years, you get to pick your duty station. For some reason, I got through basic training and they're like, oh, you're going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Airborne Division. I'm like, that's not in my contract. I can show you my contract right now. And the drill sergeant was kind of like, I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. Nothing's going to change. If that's what your orders say, that's where you're going. Wow. So I went to, and it sucked because I had my best friend join at the same time. We both chose Fort Campbell or Fort Bragg to be there together. But went to Fort Campbell. I was a 13 Fox, a forward observer for the artillery. So I basically would go out with the infantry, scout out artillery targets, find the grid coordinates. Back in the day, I had to use a map, a compass, and a flashlight. And
right
now they have like just a little laser thing, doop, and it gets you the grid coordinates. But so you'd go out and you'd kind of adjust the artillery fire to make sure you hit your target. That was my job. But I was a good soldier. Always had the nice pressed, BDUs, always looking good, always, passing all my tests. And I got picked up to be the brigade commander's driver, which is like, it's a role that, everyone wants to have. And it becomes kind of a cush job because you're just there to like help the colonel with whatever he needs. And you're doing a lot of admin work and stuff. But it was, I got away with a lot of stuff because it's funny because you imagine, I was just like at that time, maybe a PFC or a specialist. And you're the one that's fearing the NCOs and the officers, but they kind of feared me because they knew if they said anything stupid or did anything stupid that, I go back to the colonel, tell him, and he's going to handle it.
Right.
So, he used to make me call him by his first name, and I had, Thanksgiving dinner over there. So it was a cool job. And then one day I'm sitting in the barracks. I just had finished PT. I'm in the barracks and I'm getting ready to go to work. And everyone starts screaming and yelling in the hallways, turn on the TV, turn on the TV. And that is when they took out the Twin Towers.
Yep.
9/11. And as I turned on the TV, that's when the second plane hit the second tower.
And you're like 19, right?
Yeah. Probably about 19. 19 at the time, maybe 20. So obviously that kind of flipped the switch. and everything got real serious. The colonel was going to tons of meetings, so I'm driving around all times of the night. And that's where I think initially the plan to invade Iraq, came, and I started hearing rumblings. Hey, this is going to happen. We might be going off to Iraq, and sure enough, yep, got the orders, and they told us, hey, you're going. And I think they do a really good job of preparing you mentally for something like that.
Well, I was just going to ask, well, how do you process that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if I remember, getting that, at that moment, I was just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is my job, and we're going to do it. But as it neared closer, and then I started really thinking, holy shit, like I'm going to war.
Right.
And it got a little crazy, and I was obviously freaking out a little bit. But we got over there, and everything. For the first, I'd say 6 months, it was pretty calm. We were one of the first groups of people to cross the Iraq border from Kuwait, and for the first 6 months, we traveled from Kuwait, all the way up into Baghdad, and then up into Mosul, which is the very north end of Iraq by the Tigris River. The first 6 months, everyone was kind of went into hiding. The terrorists weren't coming out. It was just like everything was calm. But then after that first 6 months, that's when the terrorists started coming out, and they're taking down Black Hawks, they're shooting RPGs, mortar attacks, and all sorts of stuff, and firefights and IEDs in the road. So that's when it got a little crazy. So I lost some friends along the way. But my job there, because I was working at the division level, because I was the commander's driver, I started doing security for a captain that our job was to go around from bank to bank to bank to facilitate the change of the old dinar that had Saddam's face on it to the new dinar that didn't have Saddam's face on it. This is obviously after Saddam was taken out. Fun fact, when Uday and Qusay, his two sons, were taken out, I was actually there on site when it happened.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So that was it. I spent a year and 3 days in Iraq. I came back. My re-enlistment was up, and I was like, I just spent a year getting shot at and fucking grenades thrown at me and mortar rounds hitting the building I'm in. And it's like, I don't know if I want to take that chance again. My mom was also a wreck, so that played a part in it. She's seeing the news every day. I worked with Blackhawks a lot, so she would see like Blackhawks getting taken out. So she was a wreck. She just told me a story recently how like her friends would come knock on the door, and they would come to like check on her. And every time she heard a knock on the door, she freaked out, thinking it was going to be.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So she never told me. She literally just told me that like a month ago. So she literally told her friend, she goes, "Fucking stop coming over here. Stop knocking on my door." All right. So I got out, and I said, I'm going to take my chances in the civilian world. The only thing I had known up until that point, besides being in the military, was working in the hospitality industry. I had done, busboy, cook, all that stuff as a young kid, dishwasher, all that stuff. So I got back, and I guess the most that made the most sense for me to jump back into that. So I got a job as a server at Smoky Bones in Wellington. And that's kind of just where my career in nightlife and everything started, because when I worked at Smoky Bones, I ended up being the head trainer, and I wanted to become a bartender. Finally became a bartender. Now I'm, 22 years old, and I'm getting into the nightlife scene. I'm going out to clubs and the girls and all that fun stuff. So it's like, I want to be a nightclub bartender. So I got hired at a couple different nightclubs. I'm working at a bar one day, and the DJ doesn't show up, and the owner says to me, he's like, "Hey, you seem like a pretty hip dude. I'm going to give you these 2 iPods. Can you just play music because the DJ's not here?" So I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I started playing music on an iPod. A couple people made fun of me, and but I enjoyed doing it. I watched the people reacting, and they were dancing and having a good time. I'm like, I kind of like this. So I asked the owner, I said, "Hey man," I was like, "Can I do this again next week?" He's like, "Sure." So I went and bought everything. I bought
Wow.
turntables, mixer. I bought every fucking piece of DJ equipment. The top of the line. I had probably some of that army money left over, and I bought everything. I had Technique turntables. I got a Rain mixer, speakers, everything. So I just started watching YouTube videos, and I taught myself how to DJ. And that ended up, it was just a snowball effect. I got hired at a club, and they said, you can take our slowest night, and if you can make something out of it, whatever. So I turned a night that they were only doing 3,000 in sales on a Tuesday to a night they were doing 12,000 in sales as their ladies' night. So
Wow.
that's kind of where I got into DJing and promoting. So without giving you the whole thing, obviously working in nightlife for those next 15 years, I got out of it. So we'll say the first 12 years, went from, okay, having a few drinks and this and that to now, like, I'm working in nightlife 5 days a week. I'm drinking heavily now. I'm doing cocaine. Now it gets to the point where it's like every time I drink, I'm doing cocaine. So now I'm obviously doing cocaine 4 nights a week, drinking, not paying my bills, getting in trouble, ending up at strip clubs, spending all the money I'm making. I just lived a terrible lifestyle, and everyone saw me and thought, hey, this guy's the fucking life of the party. He's so cool. He's so happy. He's having a good time. But inside, especially towards the end, I was miserable. I'd get home and I'd look myself in the mirror and I'd just fucking cry. And I'd be like, man, this is no way to live. But, it became, I got sucked in. I got sucked into nightlife, and I got sucked into the drugs, and I couldn't get out. So
I want to hit pause.
yeah.
Because I think this is just so key, and I'm curious to get your answer.
Yeah.
You're miserable on the outside, right? It all looks great.
Yeah.
Right? You got the money, the drugs, the girls, right?
Yep.
But you're coming home and something is missing.
Yeah.
What was it?
I want to say what was missing. I could
You
tell
knew
you
something was off, right? What was
I
that?
would say like my self-esteem. I was missing something. I just felt like I wasn't doing anything positive. I wasn't like fulfilled, I guess. My mental health. Now, I didn't really mention this, but at the same time, I'm battling PTSD. I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I got diagnosed with bipolar 2. So you can imagine all those things on top of doing drugs and drinking. I was miserable. I'll admit it. There was times where I thought, I was like, fuck, I wish I could just kill myself and end this cycle and end this bullshit. I don't want to live anymore. And like I said, I was just, the only thing I was missing is just a purpose in life and self-esteem and, learning to respect myself and take care of myself. I'll be honest. I was sleeping with every fucking girl I could find. And I was just like, this was the way of me making myself feel better. I was drinking and doing drugs to get rid of the pain, and then sleeping with girls to get that, make me feel better about myself because of my low self-esteem. This went on for a super long time. 10 years of just like, it's the same shit over and over again. I'd wake up and I'd get to the point where I was just like, I had so much anxiety and I was so miserable just to go into work because I know what's going to happen. And there was nothing I could do about it because I would walk in there and someone would be like, hey, have a shot with me. And some cute girl would walk up, do a shot with me. And I just, I would cave every time.
Yeah.
And I was at one point dating a really nice girl who was just so good to me and just dealing with my bullshit. And I'm watching me break her heart over and over and over again. And I had a bender, and I just, I told her I wasn't going to do drugs, and she could see it in my face. And she actually took her finger, licked it, and stuck it like in my nose, and then licked it again. And she could taste like the gasoline. And she could tell. She's like, you fucking did it again. You lied to me. You fucking lied to me. Long story short, she ends up fucking kicking me out. And I tell you what, like, that was probably like the low, because I had moved in with her. She got her own place, and I moved in with her. That was one of the lowest points of my life. I was like, I'm out of her house. I got to find somewhere to live now. She hates my guts. I've fucking totally crushed this girl. I've lied and I've connived and I've done everything like I shouldn't be doing. And you know, that's not the person that I wanted to be. I obviously forgot to mention that after that initial time, that's when I said to myself, I've got to make a fucking change. I've got to make it now. Like I've upset this girl. I've torn her apart. I've done everything. Like I'm watching myself destroy this girl. I'm watching me destroy my own life. I'm watching not being able to pay my bills and feeling like shit and all this. So I called up a friend and I said, listen, I was like, he was going to AA. And I said, hey, I want to go. I want to try this out. And luckily enough, I went for a year straight. I got sober. And from that day, I've never touched alcohol, drugs, anything ever since. And it's been now.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
It's going on 6 years. But so the next chapter after I stopped drinking is when I was still dating her. And she's still, you know, we were hanging on, but I was still doing shady shit and I was still being a piece of shit and I was still lying to her about things. And, I you know, they say like alcoholism and being an alcoholic is more than just a person who drinks too much. It's like a mentality. It's a lifestyle. And you just, you know, there's so much more to it. And they talk about getting sober. Stopping drinking and getting sober are two totally different things. You know, there's becoming sober, there's a lifestyle behind it. And there's, you know, you're learning how to be a better person. And sure. I hadn't got there. And when I went through AA, I did the 12 steps, but I did them shitty. And there was things that I didn't do that my sponsor told me to do every day. One of them was he wanted me to get on my knees and pray every day. I wasn't a very religious person. You know, I said I was a little bit spiritual. That's the one thing I avoided doing. But we finally have this big breakup where she kicks me out of the house. And now I am sober at this point, or I'm not drinking. I get to a point where I realized that, yes, I stopped drinking, but there is a lot more going on here. There's a lot more to this, and there's a lot more that I need to do. So after that whole thing, I got so fucking depressed, and I'm like, I thought when I stopped drinking, my life would completely change. And here I am. I'm still depressed. I'm still whatever. So it all started with me. The one thing I said, okay, we're going to get a fresh start. I'm going to do I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do what my sponsor said. I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to pray every morning when I wake up. 2, I'm going to listen to a positive affirmation. 3, I'm going to get into the gym. So I started with those 3 things. And I put a little sticky note on my door, said pray, so I wouldn't forget. Oh, and I made my bed every day because someone told me that if you make your bed every day, you're going to better chance of becoming a millionaire. Just, you know. So, very true. Yeah. So I did all these things and I got in this routine, and I never had a routine because, you know, especially dealing with ADHD, I was kind of all over the place. And I lucked out. I landed a great job, which was like a desk job, 9 to 5. So it really helped me like lock down a routine. So between the habits and the routine, getting myself in shape, everything started to fall into place. And I did these little things like just to be I just said, I want to be a better person. So I gave myself like some ideas, and this is a stupid one that I always talk about, but it's like one of the things I said is like, so I drink a lot of Diet Coke. And I have a McDonald's right out here, out back. As soon as I leave, like I always, like twice a day, I stop, I get a large Diet Coke to the point where they call me Diet Coke guy. But prior to this, when I would go out there, I'd get my Diet Coke and I would rip my straw wrapper and I would throw the fucking straw wrapper out the window, you know? And I'm like, and I did this forever. But when I decided to make all these little changes, I started thinking, okay, I'm not going to fucking litter anymore, even if it's the littlest thing. So I stopped throwing my wrapper out the window and I started putting it down here. So I started implementing these tiny little things that were like, you know, and they say, you know, these small habits, these small changes lead to bigger changes. So that was kind of the idea. And once I mastered one thing, I would throw another thing in there and I'd say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it just led to like just a way better fucking life. And I tell you that since I started doing these habits and I implemented fitness into my life and I started eating healthy, which I had never done in my life has changed. All of a sudden, opportunities are coming my way. Things are just happening. The universe is just like, you know, just coming into fucking, you know, sync with me and my life.
Right.
So it became something, and it became something I was very passionate about. And I just kept like, how can I be better? I follow a lot of people on social media, and I can tell even like in my current relationship, my my thoughts and my way of doing things has changed. Back in the day when I was with the girl that I told you about before, I would like manipulate her, and I would do, and like if I did something wrong, I would try to flip it, and I would try to like make it like, what did she do wrong? I'm just a very I'm a more empathetic person. I'm a more um, I try to be kind and nice, and it's just like, I mean, that's the story. I mean, I just, all between the habits and all this stuff, I've just, changed the path of my life. I wish I would have done this 20 years ago, but people always say, don't beat yourself up. And, there's never a certain time we're supposed to make these changes and live a better life. It happens when it happens. And this is my path, and this is where I'm at now. So I mean, that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
I love it. There's some things I want to dive into. Number one, the habit for me that literally altered me at 33. And then there's some things today, but the habit for me at 33 was reading the Bible every day.
Okay. And I do that. I have like a little, it's not a Bible, but it's a little thing that has verses from the Bible, and it has like a daily thing.
Right.
The January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. So I do that.
That was my radical transformation. The reason why I asked what was missing is I firmly believe that every single one of us, number one, it's the podcast, right? We're all divinely created. There will never be another JR.
Yeah.
You are uniquely you. You're not an accident, right? As each of us and all our listeners. We're all divinely created for purpose. I firmly believe that. But I also believe that every single human being has a God-sized hole that only he can fill.
Yeah. So now looking back on that question, yes, I definitely was missing spirituality in my life, because that's something I've learned to embrace. And I go to church now. I as much as I can. I'd like to go more, but unfortunately I work on Sundays. But that was missing. That was definitely missing in my life. And that's a huge part of where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So great. And I love what you said. Like, we're not, I think and I'm certainly guilty of this, right? Like we really are, we can be, if we tool our mind properly to all the things that you're talking about, we get to be a new creation every day, right?
Yeah.
We're evolving all the time. The man you are today is not the 19-year-old, is not the clubbing guy. Like, I love that. And so often, I did a podcast on the Bible says, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning, when you put your hand to the plow, you're looking forward and you're moving forward. But if you keep looking backwards, right, you can't be used. Like, I'm just going to because I'm a faith-based guy, right? I can't use JR if he keeps thinking he's the 30-year-old clubbing and drinking. You know what I mean? Like, so we go through these processes, which I love your story. The other thing that I would say was a game changer, and I don't know if you do this, but maybe this is one of those things. And for our listeners, is the grocery cart. Put the grocery cart back.
Oh, yes, that is one of them.
Right?
Yes, yes, that is one of them.
Small thing, right?
Yep.
But when you're done with the cart, put it in where the carts go, or bring it back to the store. And along the way, maybe help somebody do, you know what I mean? Like, hey, let me take that for you. That is a game changer, as silly as it may sound.
It's funny because that was one of the things, because I remember I was on a date during this process, and a girl said to me, we were driving to Orlando, we're going to Universal, and we were talking about like our pet peeves and shit like that. She's like, I hate when people don't put their carts away. And I thought to myself, oh, man, I'm guilty of that. Okay, I'm going to change that. And then I started putting my cart away every time. And it's funny because I just watched a video on it, and it's a guy from Publix, and he's like, he had worked at Publix. He goes, I see all these people talking about not getting pissed about people not putting their carts back. But he's like, you know what? He's like, My favorite part of working at Publix was going around and picking up all the carts. That would give me time to get outside and walk around. He's like, so stop putting your fucking carts away. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, and he gets paid. He's like, I get paid to work here. Part of my job is to go pick up the carts. But no, yeah, I definitely, that's another one, putting the carts away.
It's, so for anybody listening, if you're not doing that, try it. Make your bed as soon as you get up, right? Put your carts away. I mean, there's all these little things where you and go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and one other thing that I try to do is also, and I forgot the guy. Oh, it's the guy that I want to say it was the guy from the 75 Hard guy.
And Andy Frisella.
Yes, Andy Frisella. And then beyond 75 Hard, he has another like challenge. It's like a 6-month thing, but one of those things is talk to a stranger every day. Mm-hmm. So I not that I just talk to a stranger, but I always try to do something kind and something nice. Like the other day I was at the gym and I saw some lady and she's like sitting on the ground and her car's open, her trunk's out. And her tire she blew a tire.
Yeah.
The lug nuts on her tire wouldn't come off, so she couldn't change her tire. And she was sitting there for a while and she called AAA and she's like, I can't get the lug nuts off, So I was like, I want to help her. And I go over there and she's like, well, I can't get this. She's like, don't worry. Everyone's tried. I've had 5 people walk by and try. They're not going to you can't get the lug nuts off. I said, I take that as a challenge. And I went over there and I fucking got every single one of those lug nuts off. The lady's mind was blown and she was so happy. She's like, oh my God. But yeah, I trying to do something kind and nice and, just make someone's day, give someone a little bit of encouragement and motivation. You see someone working out who looks like they're new, giving them some encouragement, making them feel good about themselves. So that's another thing that I try to implement.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll bring up. It's funny because I just did it the other day. It's kind of like when you find these little life hacks, you're so excited when you see somebody struggling, right? Doing something that you used to do until you found the life hack, right? You're always right. Well, let me share it. One of them for me was I had a car a while back that had a battery drain somewhere in the wiring. So I would walk out and the car would be dead and you'd need a jump, right?
Yeah.
It was constant. Yeah. And so I found this, 1,000 whatever voltage, whatever it was, like it's like the size of a brick and you can attach jumper cables to it, right? And so it's like a portable jumper, right? It was like $50 and game changer.
Yeah.
Right. But now, anytime I see somebody like, oh my God, my battery dead, I don't have to pull up my car. I just walk. I go, you need to jump, and I walk over with this little thing, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And I'm like, oh, it's on Amazon. Go get one.
I have one, and I went through a very similar situation. My battery kept dying, and I did the same fucking thing. I had that thing now, and I have it sitting in my car. I've only had the opportunity to use it once, and that might have been a while for you, but a while ago. But the ones now, they're even smaller, and it's just like a little thing.
Sure.
And it plugs in. It's got 2 little clips.
Yep.
And I keep it charged up. And I walk over there, boop boop boop, starts her car up, and this lady was mind blown. She's like,
right.
I was like, and same thing. I was like, I got it on Amazon.
Yep.
And it's something everyone should have one of those. Everyone.
Absolutely. But it also makes your day because and again, I love success leaves clues, or that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I know we think alike, because success-minded people think alike, right? It's just these fundamentals. What you put out there comes back.
Oh yeah, huge believer in that. Yeah.
You start being kind. You put your card away. You do whatever it is, right? The random acts of kindness, it's coming back.
Yeah.
And it changes your life.
Totally believe that. That was one of the things that I said, that like I want to make these changes because I know that if I put good energy into the world, I'm going to get good energy back. And that was the whole idea.
Yeah. And that's the one thing, Jared, that I noticed about you when we were at the gym is you were friendly, right? You were kind. You were helping people. I know you were doing things, but I'll tell you, and it's funny because I didn't even think about it until just now. So I'll give my why I love JR story. Is you had the F45 event at that brunch place downtown. Yep. I had literally just moved to the area, joined the gym, and I understand, right, getting out and connecting with people. and you made it a point to introduce me to other people so I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I remember that. Yep.
And that tiny little thing is, I was like, this dude's different.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's like I remember that because you were one of the only people that came from the Wellington gym, because everyone
Right.
from everyone there was from West Palm. So I obviously knew that you probably didn't know too many people. I introduced you to Erica. I remember you guys had a conversation and stuff. But yeah, I mean that's one of the things I always that's one of my things, and that's always been a thing, even through my bullshit life. All the stages of my life that sucked. One thing is I always try to be very hospitable, and I always try to be kind. And sometimes people say to a fault, like I see a homeless person, I'm fucking giving them $5. It's like, and it sucks, and my kid sees it now, and he's like, Dad, give me money. I got to give this guy $5. And I'm like, calm down, man. Just relax. But, it just sucks. You don't know people's story. You don't know what they're dealing with. And I've been in a situation where, I've had a real tough time, and, it's nice to have someone that actually gives a shit. So, I try to put that into the world.
Early on, you talked about introducing me that day. Early on, man, I was still in my teens, and I had a teacher, right, and a mentor, and he had this ability. All these years later, and he's passed away, right? But he made it a point that if you were with him, anybody he knew, he would go, "Have you two met?" Or, "Hey, do you know John?" You know what I mean? Or, "Do you know, JR?" And he did it all the time. He was always connecting people, but it was the way he did it. And between him and then that act of kindness that you gave me, literally, I did it yesterday with my buddy Matt, who, right? I said, "Hey, do you know Matt?" You know what I mean? Because it's just,
that's what you're supposed to do. That's
make sure people are connected.
Make people feel comfortable. Like, there's nothing more uncomfortable to walk up with someone, you're just chatting to one person just standing there by themselves with their thumb up their ass. It's like, make them feel welcome, make them feel part of the conversation. That's something everyone should do, but a lot of people don't. So
a lot, just like they don't make their bed and put the grocery cart away.
Yeah.
Little things. So let's talk about what you're promoting. Like, what are you after?
So
how can the listeners, benefit from what you're doing out there?
So, I'll make it quick, but after my own transformation, actually, I'll tell you that I've had a talk therapist for years. I think that's a great thing. It's a great tool, and helping you get those things out there, and knowing you're going to tell someone something that's not going to judge you and give you good advice. But one thing he said to me is like, I think there's something you're missing in your life. And he's like, I think that's helping people. And he's like, I think you should tell your story more, and put it on your social media and start talking. And that I literally did that, and that was kind of the start. Like, I put my story out there. I talked about some vulnerable things in my life, and I couldn't believe the amount of reception that I got, and the amount of people that wrote me and said, "Hey, man, I totally relate with this. I thank you for saying it. That really, just your words helped me." And then people started writing me, asking me, questions, like whether it is like fitness or getting sober or mental health. And I loved talking to people about it. I loved helping people. And somehow I decided, I was like, well, let me get into this coaching thing and be able to help people. So that I said there would be nothing more. It would give me a sense of purpose, and nothing that would be better than me going out and be able to help other people. And obviously making a living off of it, so I can focus my life on doing that. Yep. I thought that was just an amazing idea. So I started doing one-on-one fitness and nutrition coaching. But I mean, I don't limit it to that. I do teach, I talk a lot about habit forming, different, goal planning exercises, and I write their programs, I write their nutrition, and guide them along the way. I got a personalized app that's customized to every different client and their goals. But that's what I'm doing now. So if there's anyone that needs a little kick in the ass, a little accountability, and needs some guidance, and give them the way, that's what I'm here for. So
I want to point out, because I've had fitness people on the podcast, and everybody's got great things to offer, but I'm gonna say something bold about you, my friend. What makes you different is because of who you are. And I was going to touch on it's the little things, but you mentioned the word earlier, empathy.
Yeah.
And empathy really is is grace, right? It takes a when a person understands grace, when you're giving grace, when you know this is who I was and this is the transformation, and
Yep.
thank God for grace, right? Because we're not judged on who we were, right? It's who we can continue to become.
Yep.
You are so kind.
Yeah.
I love working out with you because it's just your energy. Like there's no muscle head, and you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about in the
Yeah.
gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
or you see people and they're always paying attention to the same people. They're not, I said to one of the trainers, I think it was yesterday, the day before, I said, you're so present,
Yeah.
right? And you're paying attention. I really appreciate that.
Was
And
it?
and when I'm around you, your grace, your empathy, your kindness comes out, that it's great to be around you. And that's
Yeah.
dude, that's such a great, amazing quality to have.
Yeah, my therapist said the same thing, and it's funny. People see me, this big 6'4" tattoos, and they see me and they think like I'm this totally different person. But when they get to know me, they realize that I'm not this meathead, musclehead, fucking tough guy. So I got to be a tough guy in certain situations, but
Of course.
I like to I like to be kind. I like to be empathetic, and and when you talk about grace, that's one of the things I worked on. Is originally I had to work on giving myself grace first,
Right.
before I moved on, and that's what I did. I stopped beating myself up over the things I did in the past and realized that was the past. This is the future. I can make a change now. I'm not going to harp on myself for what I did in the past and say, "Oh man, I wish I'm so mad at myself for not doing this 20 years ago." Like kind of like what we talked about before. It was all about giving myself grace and understanding. And even when I mess up now, if I mess up, I miss the gym a couple days, or I eat a pizza, or something even small like that, saying, it's okay. It's okay. Just jump back on the wagon. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You got to give yourself grace.
Well, number one, you're drinking Diet Coke. So how how upset with yourself can you get?
That's the one vice I still have. It's the fucking diet soda. So
But listen, the podcast, this is episode 101. 100 was
oh
my
wow.
sister. Her husband, my brother-in-law, dealing with pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
So
fuck.
It's not all. I think now the age gap, right, where I sit on this journey, is you do realize that fucking tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah.
And so if it's the Diet Coke or it's the pizza, like life is meant to be lived. There is a balance,
Yeah. They gotta
and
have a
I've
balance.
learned that like today, right? I didn't go to the gym because the thought of dealing with more pain with the gym that we've been
Yeah.
working out at, right?
And
Like I was just like,
I'm not gonna be able to walk tomorrow after today, just so you know.
right. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I know. So
Yeah.
I went paddleboarding, right? Because I
Oh,
hadn't
nice.
been on the water, and like that was just a different form of me being active. But it was also, I need this to be. So my point
Yes.
is there is a balance between living life, right? And you're doing all the right things to have a healthy life, but
Yeah.
you got to do some things that are different
Yeah.
and fun, and they might
I
not
go
be
by
good for you.
I go by the 80-20 rule. Even with diets, with nutrition, with life, you got to have that 20%. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. You got to, like,
Correct.
if you want to enjoy your pizza, if you want to go do something, you want to take a day off and do something for yourself, you got to do it, because and that's what I preach about people that do all these diets, like the keto diet, the what's the other one that's big now? The one where
Carnivore.
carnivore diet, all these things, you're restricting. That's not sustainable over life. Okay.
Right.
You're going to fall off, and you're going to gain that same weight back. You're going to get right back in that same hole. So if we okay, I'm going to eat healthy 80% of the time, but if I want to eat fucking a box of Oreos, once a week, or I want to have a pizza, that's okay. Because then you're going to be able to sustain these changes in your life for the rest of your life.
Yep.
So that's a big thing that I preach.
Yeah. And that was what I found when I did 75 hard. I did that at 49. I did it in 2019. And coming out of that, it's funny because the gallon of water became the habit.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that was a game changer. But
That's a game changer.
the 2 workouts, 45 minutes, like there was no way I personally like could sustain that kind of
No.
regimen. You know what I mean? But again, when you do hard things,
Yep.
and maybe this would be the last thing we talk about, when you do hard things for a short period of time, there are some nuggets that come out of that, some habits, right? You may
Yep.
not sustain the P90X as an example, or the 75 hard for 90 days or 75 days, but you're going to walk away with a better mentality, better habits. And that's why I like doing hard things, because it's kind of like you stretch the rubber band, and then when it comes back, it doesn't go from where it started from.
Yeah. It's
forward.
And I think on top of that, you also come out of it knowing more about what you're capable of. Like, so you might go into it thinking, there's no fucking way I'm going to go 75 days and work out twice a day and drink all this water and read the books and do all that stuff. But once you do it, then you're like, oh shit, I can do this. I can accomplish more than I imagined.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like, and one thing I'll touch on, because you kind of brought it up with, that's another thing I try to do, is I wanted to do uncomfortable things. I wanted to break out of my shell, go to different gyms where I didn't know anyone, just simple things like this, put myself in situations, speaking in front of groups of people or whatever it was, putting myself in uncomfortable situations so I can push through that barrier and learn what I'm capable of.
I love that. And I think the lesson for our listeners is it doesn't have to be go jump out. Oh, I got a fear of heights, so I'll jump out of a plane. You know what I mean? Or, fitness is not like you said, it's not a diet or a fad because you just can't sustain it. But what's one small thing that you could do? Perfect example that I'll use is, I can't, for years, I would go to the gym first and then do my coffee, pray, plan, journal, right?
Yeah.
And because of the gym that we're going to, the best workout time, the workout times were 6:15 and 9 or 9:15 or something like that, with an 8 o'clock in between. I'm like, there's no freaking way I'm not getting up earlier, right, to make the 6:15, and the 9's too late, and the 8's kind of in the middle of my prayer time. Like, I was so locked in that box. But then I went and I loved the workout. I'm like, all right, how do I make this work? And now I wake up, at 6, I have my coffee, I pray, plant, whatever. By the time I hit the gym, my entire morning's pretty much done.
Yeah,
I just come home,
you've accomplished a lot.
And I actually gained an hour.
Yeah, I know.
By working out later. You know what I mean? Like one small little uncomfortable change actually became such a blessing.
Creatures of habit. It's hard to break out of those things, but that's how you excel. That's how you get better. That's how you learn what you're capable of.
Yeah, it's very true. And the workout is, as we've talked about, so much better. I'm like, I'm feeling better, I'm looking better. So it's it's great all the way around. How do our listeners follow you, my friend?
On Instagram, it's at jhutter23. On TikTok, it's at jhuttercoaching.
All right, hang on a second. So IG is at
jhutter23.
Okay.
And then TikTok at jhuttercoaching. So those are the 2 platforms I'm most active on. So
okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I knew you'd knock it out of the park, and you did. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
I love who you are, bro. And
appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I look forward to pushing some metal again.
We'll do it soon. I'll be there probably not till Monday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So, all right, everyone. So follow JR. His social media is awesome. Make sure you follow him. And thanks again, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
All right, brother.